ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om. Salutations to all. So we were on verse 293. We saw this earlier section of end the superimposition. Different sadhanas were given, and now we were on the I factor, the ego. That ego is a myth. It's unreal. It is false. So in that verse 293, that's where we had stopped. What the Shankaracharya ji says, Sarvatmana drishyamidam mrishaiva. That whatever we are seeing outside as the world, it is unreal. Naivaham artha kshanikatva darshanat. Not only is the world unreal, but this I also is unreal. Why kshanikatva darshanat? Because it is momentary. Constantly it is changing. Janami aham sarvamiti pratitihi kutohamade kshanikasya siddhyet. Then if this I itself is a myth, then what to talk about the notion that we have that I know everything when we perceive the world outside and we experience, I know this, I know that, I know many subjects, all that, the feeling that I know, and then the consequent idea that I have about myself, how can that be real? Why? Because ego itself is unreal. Whatever that ego perceives also has to be unreal. Because ego is unreal, the world is also unreal. As long as the ego is there, world appears real. When ego is not there, world doesn't even exist. So that factor now is being discussed here further also. This next section will also be based on this. So what we try to do generally is keeping this ego intact. Then we try to say that the world is unreal. That will not work because the world is appearing real because of the ego. So ego itself is falsified. And hence this whole section on this aspect, that the perceived I, which is the small I, the ego, that ego itself is false, and the understanding of Vedanta is meant to falsify the ego. Because the source of all the challenges that we have in life is this false identification. In Vedanta, we say ego is false identification. By ego, we don't mean only what people use in general terms as superiority complex, that is a big ego, or some arrogance or pride. In Vedanta, it means the identification with the changing, with the body, mind, intellect, and the consequent sense of limitation and jiva bhav that I have, that I am Mr. So and so. That I am Mr. So and so constantly changes. In the whole, in just few minutes also, if we observe, our idea, the small I, keeps changing. with the changes of the body, with the changes in the thoughts, with the changes in the emotions, it goes on changing. So this I is a by itself a changing entity. And when we have seen so far all the different states of consciousness also. In the waking state itself, it changes every single moment. In the dream state, there's a different perception. This I of the waking state is not there. So if we remember in Vedanta what we say, the consciousness identified with the waking state, that small I is called Vishwa. Consciousness identified with the dream state, that small I is called Tejas. So that Tejas is different from Vishwa. And both these are absent in deep sleep. World also is not perceived in the deep sleep. So consciousness identified with that state where only ignorance and vasanas are there in unmanifest form, that is called prajna. So Vishwa itself goes through changes in waking state. Tejas goes through changes in the dream state. In prajna, there is no perception of any world at all. Ignorance and vasanas exist. So this I, which we think is so real, what is the reality that it has? Because the definition of real is that which is changeless and that which exists without changing in all the three periods of time. That is called real. Now here this idea goes on changing of I. In this waking state itself, it goes on changing. And then it disappears also in dream state and deep sleep state. So one who observes very carefully this phenomenon starts wondering that what is so real about this. One finds it is unreal. It just goes on changing. Kshanikatva darshana. If I experience this deeply, that it is momentary, kshanikatva. So in some ways that is practiced also when we observe just the body, sensations in the body, they come, they go. I am the witness, I am observing. As a witness, one has seen the changes in the body also, from childhood, teenage, youth, you know, adulthood. One sees the changes, but I, the witness, is unchanging. Changes have happened in the body. This is at a broader level of the stages of the body, but every moment also there are continuous changes happening in the body. Continuous thoughts are changing in the mind, emotions are changing, because each one independently is very momentary. But when we put together these momentary changes and thoughts, a fictitious entity called ego is getting produced. The fact is, it does not exist at all. One way to understand that is what the movie screen and the movie, when the movie is projected, is all still pictures. Many still pictures projected at 25 frames per second. Then there is an illusion that there is actually a person there, and then there's some action happening there, and some song is happening, some dance is happening, something is happening there on that screen. The illusion of the person being there, the illusion of the movement being there, is all happening there. But if we actually slow down that whole projection, then we will see it is only still slides. There is no entity there, there is no movement there, nothing is there. But the speed at which it is being projected creates that illusion of the entity as well as the movement happening. Same way here, the speed of our thoughts, that we are not able to see the momentariness of every single thought. Which is why in Vedanta also it is important to slow down the quantity of thoughts. then we will actually be able to perceive the momentariness. See, actually, if the person has that little bit of a vision and one is able to step back, one will be able to see even in the fast flow of thoughts also. Because it comes, goes, it comes, goes. The thought doesn't sustain fast at all for a long time. It just goes. So even in a fast mind, it is actually possible to recognize, but our problem is we are identified with the thought, so we are getting carried away in that flow, so not able to perceive. And also the entity who is perceiving is still not considered unreal by us. The ego is going to perceive the thoughts of itself. To understand that there is another entity in me which is not the ego, which is observer of the ego, which in quantum physics they call as the ultimate observer. The ultimate observer observes the observer observing something. What does that mean? Suppose I am seeing this computer. The computer is the observed. This I is Mr. So and so, who is observing this computer. But there is a Sakshi in me who is observing this I also. From that standpoint, this I also is changing, the computer also is changing. This is what is said here. That Sarvatmana Drishyamidam Rishaiva. This seen world is unreal, and the person who is seeing, the entity who is seeing, that is also unreal. From which standpoint? From the standpoint of the Atma, both these are unreal. And that is what we are trying to realize. So because the thought flow is very fast and identification is with the object of the thought, I am not able to stand apart and see subject, object, both, they are unreal. They are changing. And that is why dispassion is required. Vairagya plays the biggest role here. That I don't get carried away by the object of the thought, nor do I get carried away by the subject. Because object which I really love is based on the subject's strong attachment. If I love watching movies, this I, Mr. So and so, has that attachment to movies or to some food or to some person. Now, this Mr. I has this attachment to this, so it will be very dependent on all these for happiness, will cling. In that process, one completely forgets that my true nature is something else. I've identified with one body, mind, intellect, become this small I. Now I have attachments, aversions, likes, dislikes. Now I'm stuck to those objects. Where is the time and space to even stand back from the object, stand back from this very I, the subject? The ultimate subject is the Sakshi. That ultimate subject has no likes, no dislikes, nothing. It is pure consciousness. There is no capability at the moment in the buddhi to even stand apart from both these. Vivek Chudamani, Vivek means this aspect. To stand apart as the Sakshi. If I don't stand apart as a Sakshi, then this Mr. So and so is real. Now, if Mr. So and so is real, the world that Mr. So and so experiences also is real. Hence, this section is to tell us that whatever this Mr. So and so entity is, that entity only is myth. So we are not trying to falsify the world, retaining the ego. We are understanding both of these to be unreal. Both have the same level of reality, that when one appears real, the other also appears real. So if the ego is real, the world appears real. If the ego is not there, world is not there. So the world's perception depends on the existence of the ego and its perception. So that's why in the deep sleep, when ego is not there, world not there. So instead of trying to rectify the world for my happiness, I should withdraw from that come to the subject, which is the ego, and withdraw from that ego, come to the ultimate subject, the Sakshi. From that standpoint, I see, both of these were changeless, changing. And the real I is the Sakshi, the changeless truth. That doesn't change any time. In the three states, what remains common? Vishwa is not same, Tejas is not same, Prajna is not same. Each of them are different. But the consciousness which is appearing as these three, that is the same. That consciousness is my nature. That is what I have to understand. So that's what is now going to be elaborated. So continuing this thought in 294, aham padarthastvaham sakshi nityam sushuptavapi bhava darshanat brute yajo nitya iti shruti swayam tat pratyagatma sadasadvilakshanaha. So what we discussed just now, that is elaborated here. Aham padarthastu aham adi sakshi. This supreme I is the witness of this ego, etc. Etc. means from ego onwards, the buddhi, the mind, the pranas, the senses, the world outside, the whole thing. This true I, the word aham really means the true I, which is a sakshi of the small I, ego, and all the rest of the things that we just narrated. Nityam, it is always there. Sushuptav api bhava darshanat. In the deep sleep also it is there, which is what we just discussed, that Vishwa Tejas Prajna changes. But the consciousness, the true I, is the same. It doesn't change at all. It is present. It never becomes absent. Even in the waking state, it is there, but we are not aware because we are identified with the ego. Otherwise, it is there. And it is because of it only the ego exists. So it is there in waking, dream, deep sleep, and it is changeless in all the three. And hence, he has quoted here the scripture. This is a quote from Kathopanishad. It is just indicated. Yajo nitya iti shruti swayam brute. So the quote in the scripture is Ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That this real I does not die even with the death of the body. Yajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha. Ajaha means unborn. Nitya, all the time present. Shashvata, eternal. Puranaha, most ancient. And yet ever new. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It will not die even if this body dies. In fact, it will be the witness of death also, because death is a condition of the body. Prana ejects from the body with the subtle body, with the five senses of knowledge, five senses of action. So five pranas, five senses of knowledge, five senses of action, mind, intellect, memory, ego. This is subtle body that ejects out of the gross body. And as per the causal body, the vasanas and the ignorance, it takes another form. The witness, the true I, is a sakshi of both the condition of the body, which is dead right now, as well as the condition of the mind, intellect, memory, ego, so the whole subtle body, the causal body. It is a sakshi of both. That this body is dead now. And because the mind has ejected out of it, then it no more, the body no more feels any pain. And it is an inert thing, just like any other inert thing. And it is disposed of. The Mr. So and so, this Jiva is the Jivatma that has gone out of the body. Consciousness is that which is enlivening that Jiva also. Hence, it is all the time present. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even if the body dies, this I doesn't die. So one may say that, yeah, the Jivatma doesn't die. No, no, no. That is why the other adjectives, ajaha, unborn, nitya, all the time present. So the jiva is not all the time present. Jiva disappears and jiva keeps changing identity in the waking also. So it is only the pure I that is referred. That pure I is the absolute consciousness that exists changeless, even if the body dies, even if the mind intellect dies and causal body dies. That is called Jivan Mukti. That this uh, association with the gross, cause, subtle and causal body is what is giving rise to this small I. And now this small I thinks it is real. And I think that is my identity. I've forgotten the real I. The reflection of consciousness in the subtle body has created this perceiver, feeler, thinker. Now that perceiver, feeler, thinker is appearing to be real. And now I think that the world is real outside. So when the gross body dies, this I remains. In realization, the subtle body also dies, causal body also dies. When the ignorance is removed, that my nature is pure consciousness, with that knowledge, the ignorance is destroyed. All the vasanas, everything will be destroyed in that. Causal body gone. As long as the prarabdha is there of this gross body, that subtle body will remain. When that person dies, the Jivan Mukta dies, the gross body goes back to five elements, subtle body also goes back to five elements. Because it's made up of five elements. We saw that sattvic aspect of the five elements makes the subtle body, the mind, intellect, senses, pranas, they all go back to five elements. And causal body has got destroyed while living only, because ignorance is gone while living. So when it says na hanyate hanyamane sharire, that when the body is destroyed, this I doesn't get destroyed. Very simple meaning of it is, if the gross body is destroyed, this pure consciousness still remains. But little deeper meaning is, all the three bodies may get destroyed, but this consciousness will not get destroyed. It is that eternal truth, which is what is quoting here, that it is Nitya. And what is the scriptural declaration? It is from Kathopanishad. Ajo Nitya Shashvatoyam Puranaha Na Hanyate Hanyamane Sharire. Tat Pratyagatma. And what is this? That is my true self, Pratyag, inner self. When we say the word Pratyagatma, it always indicates the Atma, which is the innermost as of now, innermost because my identification is with the body, which is the outermost. So it is as though enveloped, what we learned earlier, na? Panchakosha Vivek, and negate that I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. How I am not the kosha? That negation, if I do, I will come to the inner self. It is called inner because layers of five layers are as though enveloping it. And Pratyagatma also means the real I. That it is the real I, it is different from the gross and the subtle. Sad, asad, vilakshana. It is the gross body which is visible, and the subtle and the causal body which are invisible. It is beyond both, sad, asad, vilakshana. So meaning what? This small I is also enlivened by the real I. In comparison to that real I, this small I doesn't even exist. It is that real I only which is appearing as a small I. It is a rope only which appears as the snake. So the rope is the reality, snake is illusion. Same way in this. Aham padarthatvam, aham adi sakshi. So when the word aham is used, the true meaning of the word aham is consciousness, pratyagatma. And that consciousness is infinite, which means that Paramatma is in my own heart. Atma and Paramatma will become one. It doesn't have to become one. Atma is already one with Paramatma. It is appearing as separate because of identification with the body. The moment that is removed, is only one. like what we have seen earlier, no, the pot example, the boundary of the pot creates the illusion that there is a pot space inside which is separate from the room space outside. But if you remove that boundary of the pot as well as the room, there is only space. In the same way, the self in me is that infinite consciousness. I don't have to merge with anybody, go anywhere. This is from Vedanta standpoint, we should understand very clearly. Otherwise, one thinks that one Atma was there, now my Atma is becoming one with Paramatma, so that is called Mukti. No, Atma becoming one with Paramatma is not Mukti. Atma dropping its false identification with the BMI and realizing that I am Paramatma. Like the dreamer who has forgotten that he is actually the waker, now is identified with one dream character. All the while he is waker only. It's not that the dream character now has to merge and become one with the waker. No, he has to wake up to realize that I am the waker all the time. And the whole dream creator, the dream world, and the dream characters, all of them are expression of one truth. That is the realization. It's not that Atma becomes one with Paramatma. They are not some finite entities to merge like that. What is infinite is infinite. There's nothing excluded in infinite. That how can something get excluded from it and now come back into it? Even mathematically, when we say infinite, all numbers are included in it. There's no number outside infinite that it has to now come and get included in the infinite. That is not possible. Then it is not infinite, it is finite. So this is the fact that the Atma is the absolute truth, and that Atma is the Sakshi of this small I, and that small I goes on changing. Continuing, Vikarinam sarva vikara veta nitya vikaro bhavitum samarhati मनोरथ स्वप्न सुषुप्तिषु स्फुटम पुनः 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 पुनर्दृष्टमसत्वमेतयोः. So he says here, Vikarinam Sarva Vikara Vetta, one who is the knower, Vikara Vetta, the knower of the changes. So amidst the changes, one who is the knower of the changes, Nitya avikaro bhavitum samarhati. That has to be constantly changeless only. The simple point is the knower of the change has to be changeless. Because if the knower of the change also changes, then I will not be able to perceive the changes. Like the person who is getting carried away in the flow of water cannot see properly the flow. For that, the person has to stand on the banks, not be a part of the flow, has to be steady, then the flow can be seen properly. In us, there are so many changes that are happening. But how strange it is that we still don't know there is a changeless entity in me. And that entity which I think I am, which is knowing all these changes, I think that entity is constant. That is not constant. The I, Mr. So and so, goes on changing. So Mr. I also changes. Whatever Mr. I perceives also changes. Which means both these changes are perceived by another entity which is changeless. So in my personality, there are always these two. One is the changing entity, which is the ego, which is perceiving change in the world outside. Then there is the entity which is perceiving the changes in the ego also, but which remains by itself changeless. That I is a pure I, absolute truth. So Vikarinam Sarva Vikara Vetta, knower of all changes and everything that is changing has to be changeless and eternal. Nitya avikaro bhavitum arhati, bhavitum samarhati. Manoratha swapna sushuptishu sfutam. This is very clear in these three examples. What are these three? Manoratha is the daydreaming. Then Swapna is the dream state. And Sushuptishu is the deep sleep state. In that it becomes very clear. Punar punar drishtam sattvam etayoho. This is again and again seen. The unreality of these three is again and again seen. Manoratha Swapna. So, which means that in the day waking state, is a daydreaming, is it the very, the whole waking state is called Manoratha, daydreaming. And then dream state is Swapna, and then Sushupti, which means the what we discussed earlier, Vishwa, Tejas, Prajna. Very clearly seen the changes in the state of the ego as well as the state of what the ego perceives. Is very clearly seen again and again. Every day we experience it. But still, the power of Maya is such that we don't realize only that there is a changeless entity. My idea about myself changes. Identified with the body, if suppose the body has put on a lot of weight, now I feel low self-esteem that array I put on so much of weight and what people are thinking about me. Now after some hard work, effort, etc., if the weight loss happens, then one feels, oh, I'm so good now, I'm fit and fine and energetic. And people are thinking, array, you lost so much weight, you look so healthy. What have you done? Please tell us also. We are not able to lose. Now suddenly I feel so good. Ah, very nice. The identification with the body made this small I change. Same thing with the mind, same thing with the intellect in the waking state. In the dream state, some other entity is there, and therefore there is not even constant. It goes on changing. There's no logic in that dream state. Deep sleep, none of this exists. But what is that which makes me aware of all the three states? That Atma is the real. So again and again, this is seen in all the three states, actually. So the fact is that when we are going through experiences of waking, dream, deep sleep, what should be our attempt? The attempt is twofold, is to really perceive the changing nature, that how fickle it is. My thought about myself doesn't remain steady at all. Meaning I am a bundle of thoughts. The thinker also is a bundle of thoughts, and all the perception of the thinker also is bundle of thoughts. Two bundles of thoughts are interacting with each other. In that, one bundle of thoughts is considered more real than the other bundle of thoughts. How strange is that? So the twofold approach is to actually see very clearly the changing nature of the world and the changing nature of this small I. And the more I see the temporary fickle nature of that, then I turn towards the changeless. What is that changeless entity in me? That is a Sakshi. That at all times it is observant. It doesn't become absent at all. That Sakshi is me. Now, this happens again in two steps. One is while living in the world, doing my work, duties, everything, one part of the mind should be alert that how fickle is this ego and how much reality I've given to the world outside. This is just a role and this is not real. With that attitude, I play the role to the best of my abilities. There is no compromise in the role that is required. But by itself, this will not lead me to that state. I have to sit quietly, having developed all this Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, heard the knowledge from the teacher, reflected upon it. Then when I come to Nididhyasana Avastha, I learn to withdraw my attention. So every single day, one has to sit for some time, withdraw the attention from the world outside, step by step, what we have learned earlier also. From the world to the body, to the prana, to the mind, to the intellect, to the ego, and just remain as the witness. When we say withdraw, what does it mean? Nothing I do to encourage anything at these levels: world, outside, body, prana, mind, intellect, ego. Nothing. I just withdraw my attention and observe. Just say I am an observer, I am a Sakshi. Sakshi is an uninvolved, unaffected, uninterested observer. If there is some sensation in the body, observe. There is a sensation in the body. I am consciousness. If there is angry thought in the mind, just observe. I am not angry. I am a Sakshi. See, we don't have to give running commentary. I am explaining right now, but otherwise the attitude is aham Sakshi. I am a Sakshi. In the Kaivalya Upanishad, a beautiful mantra says, Trishudhamasu yad bhogyam bhokta bhogasta yad bhavet tebhyo vilakshana sakshi chinmatroham sadashiva. That in all the three worlds, whatever is bhogyam means the object, bhokta, the entity who is experiencing that, and the contact between these two is the experience, bhoga. So bhogya, bhokta, bhoga. He says, whatever it is, I am different from all the three. Tebhyo vilakshana. Then who am I? Sakshi. And what is the nature of the Sakshi? Chinmatroham. Only pure awareness, nothing else. And what is that awareness? Sadashiva is most auspicious. So that's the way to understand this, experience this in the day-to-day life. See the momentary nature. That something that I am making such a big fuss of, is so momentary. Now I'm feeling very hurt, Swamiji. Why did this person say like this to me? Now I'm holding on to some image of mine, and that image of mine I want that person also to have. And that person is not having that image, is having an opposite image. Now I'm feeling hurt. Arey, this small I itself is so temporary. If I look back into my life and understand that 10 years ago what I felt so hurt about, today I don't even care about it. At that moment, it was so real to me. But when I look back, I see it's such a foolish thing to do, that I am holding on to a changing entity and trying to establish that entity, and that everybody should respect and praise and do this and do that. And if they don't do, I feel bad, and then I have pride and prejudice and attachment, aversion, all for that entity which by itself is fictitious and changing. It doesn't have a real existence at all. It just appears real. Like the roles, or like the actor is playing in the movie. So when we see in the movie, it appears very real. But nothing is happening. It's all unreal. So it's only a question of identification. In the daily life, my work, my relationships, everything that I engage in can serve as a means to reduce my identification or increase the identification. Vedantin will use that opportunity of working in the world, having relationships with people, interacting with objects, facing various situations, even ambitions, goals, whatever one has. In and through all that, one main thing to learn is this is all momentary. There's nothing solid about it. So why am I making such a big fuss of something which is so changing? It is not remaining only. If I start understanding the world from that standpoint, that everything is changing, the problem is that our senses don't allow us to see that, which is why Vedanta becomes difficult. I have to constantly falsify my senses, because everything that my senses are showing is conditioning, is not true. I see that this person, is my, let us say, is my father or my brother or my spouse. I see where they are changing. Array, their body changed every single moment, it is changing. 7 years, they have a new body. So which body are we relating to? That one body died 7 years before 7 years. Now the second body is there. This will also die when another 7 years complete. Another body is there. thoughts of theirs also are changing, emotions are changing. So it appears that the person is the same, but person is not the same. Person has changed. You know, one incident in the life of Tapon Maharaj is very uh, mind-boggling in that sense. Tapon Maharaj, before he took sannyas, he used to go and meet different masters and mahatmas to learn from them, gain the scriptural knowledge, etc. So he was on his way to Baroda to meet Swami Shantyananda. When he was there, going in the train, see, his mind is full of dispassion. There are people compelling him to get married, but he doesn't want to get married. When they were pushing him so much, he said, "Yes, I already got. I will marry, no doubt, but I will marry the Lord, and I will be wedded to the life of asceticism." This was his reply. And he was very clear. His mind has no such confusion and delusion at all. With lot of vairagya, he was living. And then now he is going in the train to meet the teacher to gain the knowledge. In the compartment where he is sitting, there are different people who are sitting. In that, there is one couple who was sitting there. They had some children. And looking at them for some time, one thought arose in his mind, just one single thought arose in his mind, that how nice is this Grahastha life. Just one thought. See, it can come because of Purva Janma Samskar also. And we have lived so many lives. Some impression is there, it pops up. So when that thought came to his mind, immediately he is alert. So immediately with the Vivek Shakti discrimination, he put it aside saying it is just an appearance. It's not true. For the sadhu, that worldly life appears very real, very fascinating because one is outside. And for that grahasthi, the sadhu's life appears very fascinating because he says, "Arey, they are not stuck in the world of samsara and all the problems in this world. They have been free." Now each one sees the other as much more trouble free and much more happy. So that thought, the moment it came, he put it aside. Pratipaksha Bhavana, he put it aside, did the Vivek, continued his thinking of the Lord, reached his Guru. But when he reached his Guru, you see what his Guru told him? He said, "You have changed." Tapon Maharaj did not understand what is the Guru saying. He said, "You have changed." So Tapon Maharaj said, "Maharaj, what are you saying? What are you referring to?" He said, "You had a different conviction about brahmacharya, about uh, living a life of renunciation. And on the journey, when you came, for a few moments, you slipped, you changed." You see that level of alertness that of that Guru. Like the disciple is somewhere in the train, and one thought has come into the mind. And when he meets the Guru says, "You have changed." What is that level of alertness, you see? So my point of bringing this up is not to scare us or anything that, oh God, the Guru knows so many things. No, no, no. The point is that while I am living in the world, every single thing that I do, I can have this bhav to come to this strong conviction that everything is momentary. So what a big fuss I'm making of something I like, something I dislike, then I get attached to what I like, I run away from what I dislike. Whole life goes in that. And it's all changing. So while living in the world, if I can get this vairagya, that it is all changing. So why hold on to anything? While it is there, make the best of it. If it goes, it goes. And while it is there, don't get attached to it. Know that it is momentary. Even now, when I am seeing it as so fixed and real, it is not real. It is constantly changing. At functional level, whatever I have to deal with people, that I should deal with. But this is at psychological level. Deep down in my thinking, I must be very clear that this ego itself is a changing entity. Whatever this ego depends on the world outside, that also is changing. The changeless truth is I. So I can practice this part, that the more and more I get convinced that this entire realm is changing and the real I is changeless, the more vairagya I get, then I should sit every day and withdraw to experience that which is changeless. Withdraw from the changing, I will experience what is changeless. To withdraw from the changing, I need vairagya. And I need that clarity, Vivek, that there is a changeless truth in my personality and I must realize that. Why? Because my true demand is for the changeless happiness. That is why I should realize that. Because identifying with the changing, no matter what I achieve, I am still a jiva, miserable creature. As long as that Mr. I is there, misery will be there. That Mr. I disappears in dream state, in the deep sleep state, no misery. In the state of complete absorption, the Mr. I is gone, no misery at all. In state of true love, the small I gone, no misery. So the Mr. So and so has to disappear. And that is what we are trying to understand here. So that's why it says punar punar dashtama sattvam. Again and again one has to see this, that this is all changing. So why am I running behind this and trying to hold that which is continuously slipping? I'm trying to hold that. In a river which is flowing, try doing that. Put the hand in the river and grasp. Try to grasp the water. And then if you open the fist, it is not there. It is gone already. Another water has come. That is called samsara. What we are trying to hold and say this is mine and then get attached to that, it is not mine. And it is not the same. It is already changed. It's just an illusion that it appears it is there as it is. And so I'm relating to it. Now I'm got attached to it. It is already changed. Which not only Vedanta is saying, science also is saying that. What we don't see at the eye with the eyes, when I actually take a microscope and see, then I see how much changes are happening. Every single moment is not a steady entity at all. So everything is changing in the world outside, plus this BMI is changing, plus the ego is changing. So what is changeless? Except Om, everything below Om, from Vasana, body, mind, intellect, perceiver, feeder, thinker, object, emotion, thought, whole thing changes. And that entire change is unreal. So that's the thing. So continuing that ahead. So what is the conclusion of this whole analysis is said now. Atobhimanam tyajamam sa pinde pindabhimaninyapi buddhi kalpite kalatraya badhyamakhanda bodham jnatva swamatmanamupaihi shantim. It says, Ato abhimanam tyaja mamsa pinde. Hence, drop this ego about this body, this identification with this mass of flesh, mamsa pinde. That I am this Mr. So and so. This is a modification of food, and the flesh is there. And that flesh in a condition, you see how delusion works. We want it in a specific condition. The flesh must be in a specific condition. Then we love it. If it is not in that condition, we are not happy with it. The same body, when it is young, when it is teenage, when it is youth, so attractive, charming, wonderful, beautiful, and fascination is there for one's own body, the body of other people. As it becomes old and the whole body starts wearing out and becomes, the skin starts, this what you call, I don't remember the term, that skin starts becoming wrinkled, and then the
Wrinkles.
skin becomes, uh, very loose. It is not firm anymore.
Exactly.
That kind of a thing when it starts, or the hair where it is all becoming white, and the teeth are all falling one by one, then suddenly all the fascination goes away, because I want it in a specific condition. Then it is very charming. After that, gone. Same thing applies with everything. The objects, the people, the situations I want in a specific way, then it is fascinating. Otherwise, it is useless to me. So this body is Mamsa Pinda. And what is the difference now? When it was young, also it was a body which was product of flesh. When it is old, also it is a product of flesh only. Because the condition of the flesh has changed. He says you drop this I, the false identification that I am this. This is the equipment. Bas, take care of it, do the sadhana, drop the attachment. So ato abhimanam tyaja mamsa pinde. Pindabhimaninyapi buddhi kalpite. Because it's all imaginations of my buddhi only that I am this. It's not real. The entity who is identifying with this body as I am so young, I am so handsome, I am so this, I am so that, or the other way, I am old, I am going to die. This entity also is buddhi kalpita only. So one is the body, which is the object, and one is the ego, who is identifying with this. Both these are changing. And this entity which is deriving its self-worth from this identification with the body, that I am a man, I am superior, that is a woman, that is inferior, all that is stupid. That entity itself is wrong. Wrong in the sense that entity itself is false. And the identification with the body obviously is false identification. That those are six modifications of the body. That is not my condition. The true I is completely different from this. That I have forgotten. So he says, you drop this. Kalatraya abadhyam akhanda bodham. Who are you? You are that which is unchanging in all the three times. Abadhyam, who cannot be negated. Body gets negated. The waking state, I am aware of this gross body. Only in one third of my existence, I am aware of this body, gross body. In dream, I am not aware of this gross body. In deep sleep, I am not aware. That which I am aware only in one third of my existence, that I am considering so real, forgetting that which is actually real in all three states, which is never negated. This body gets negated in the dream and deep sleep, and this body also dies. So, in the so called waking itself, this body will exit, this body will perish. But the Sakshi will watch all this, will never get negated. Abadhyam, Akhandam, it is unbroken awareness. Bodham, Akhanda Bodham. It is continuous awareness, unbroken awareness. Experiences come and they go, object come and go. So when we say thoughts, Gurudev defined thought as thought is equal to object plus consciousness. Suppose there are 10 thoughts. One thought of apple, one thought of computer, one thought of some person, one thought of some emotion that I feel. All those 10 thoughts, the object of thoughts are different. So each object negates the other. If I think of apple, now apple has come into mind. Next, I think of a pen comes into the mind. So the pen negates the apple. No more the picture of apple is there. Now the pen object is there in the mind. But consciousness that is enlivening them is the same. It is not that a different consciousness was enlivening the pen, now different consciousness enlivening the. No. It's like the screen is the same. Different movie scenes are giving projected on it and we are seeing it. Same way. Akhanda Bodham. Unbroken awareness. Objects has breaks. One comes, other goes, but awareness remains the same. So that is my nature. The pure I, Akhanda Bodham. Kalatrayab Badhya Akhanda Bodham. Jnatva Swam Atmanam Upaihi Shantim. And know this as your true self. Right now, I'm thinking this body is my true self. or the entity working inside the body, Mr. So and so, that is the true self. Vedanta is saying, Array, drop the both the identifications. The body is a Mamsa Pinda and the entity inside also is false. Then who are you? Changeless awareness in 3 periods of time which can never be negated. Meaning with the death of the body, I will not die. With the birth of the body, I will not be born. I am not the Jiva also. The Jiva goes from one body to another. The Sakshi is the Sakshi of the Jiva also. He says, you are that. And if I know that, Nyatva Swam Atmanam, if I know this Atma of mine, what happens? Upaihi Shanti. You will experience supreme peace. Why? Because changes is what causes all misery to us. Which is the reason why it is miserable to us, because my nature is not the change. Changelessness is my absolute nature, my true nature. And because I am not identifying with that and I'm identifying with the changing, that identification is the cause of my sorrow. Please remember, the world will continue to change. Even for a realized master, the body changes, the mind changes, the world continuously changes. It is not that for realized master, suddenly now everything remains changeless. No. So the problem is not the change. The problem is identification with the change. That this is me. This false identification is the problem. So I don't have to change anything in the world outside, nor do I have to stop things from changing, because that will not happen. That's the nature of this body, mind, intellect, and the world outside. It will go on changing. So I don't have to stop the change. What we try to do is we try to stop the change. The body is changing now. We try to stop it. Postpone aging as much as one can. And even if it is aging, make it look like it was the same like before. So put some Botox, put some cream, put something, and then make it look, yeah, it is still young. What are we trying to do in that? Not allow it to change, just hold on to it. If a person changes their image about oneself, then one will put all efforts to make that image change in the head of the person back to what it was earlier. So what am I trying to do? Hold on to that. No, it should not change. That is not possible only. It will change. So our attempt is not to make the things steady out there or in here. No, attempt is to disassociate this false identification that this is me. That has to go. How that will happen? What we discussed earlier, Vairagya and withdrawal, both are important. Then only it will happen. Then only witness bhav will come. If I have a lot of attachment to the body and sense pleasures and enjoyment, then to say that I am a Sakshi is hypocrisy, because there is no possibility of being a Sakshi. Because the attachment is so much to the changing, where am I going to withdraw? Even if I sit quietly for a few seconds, I may say, oh, I felt so much happy when I withdrew from everything. It is all false notion. Just for some moments, I must have stopped thinking about something. Try sustaining it for another few more hours. It will all disappear. Why hours? Few minutes only it will disappear. So Vairagya is very, very crucial. And then ability to withdraw, that we have to learn. Now the last part in this section here is same thought process again. Tyajabhimanam kulagotra nama rupashrame shvardra shava shriteshu rupashrame vardra shava shriteshu lingasya dharman api kartritadin tyaktva bhavakhanda sukhaswarupaha. So same thought again. Tyaja abhimanam, drop this false identification. With what? Based on the body, now I have identification further. Kula. I am belonging to this Kula, This is my Gotra. This great Rishi is my Gotra, means that we are belonging to Sapta Rishis. The Gotra is Rishi's Gotra, one of the Sapta Rishis. So I belong to this great Rishi, Atri Rishi, Kashyap Rishi. That is my Gotra. This is my Kula, my family lineage. This is my name, Nama. This is my body, Rupa. Nama Rupa, Ashrama. I am a brahmachari, or I am a grihasthi, or I am a sannyasi. These all attitudes, Ardra, Shavashriteshu, they all are dependent on this corpse. The moment this body dies, none of this name, Kula, Gotra, everything dissolves, gone. And Lingasya Dharman api kartritadin. The subtle body also has this identification as I am a doer, I am Mr. So and so, without me this won't happen. So Karta Bhav, Bhokta Bhav, he says you drop all these, Tyaktva Bhava Akhanda Sukha Swarupaha. You are the very essence of absolute bliss, be that. Just think about it. The nature of ours is absolute bliss. I am not holding on to that. I have abandoned that. And this which is changing, which is misery, which is foul corpse, which is a mass of flesh and bundle of flesh, I am holding on to that. Now I am feeling miserable and I want to feel more happy, but I don't want to leave this attachment to this mass of flesh. Holding on to that, I want permanent happiness. What a stupidity it is. If I am sitting, when Mahatma said, if you sit in a dustbin, obviously people will throw dirt at you. This body is like a dustbin only. Am I seated inside that now? That I am this. Now I am crying, people are criticizing me, people are doing this to me, that to me, and I am feeling miserable. Obviously, if I am sitting inside the dustbin, dust only will be thrown. No, people should be kind. They should not throw dust. So then get out of the dustbin. Even if they are kind and they don't throw the dust, it will stinking inside. Now, why are you sitting here? But no, I will sit here. So that is the power of delusion and Maya, which makes me see this body, which is Mamsa Pinda, as a source of pleasure. Mamsa Pinda, it's stinking every minute. But still, I want pleasure out of it. And I want to make it more pleasurable. So with all the sense objects, everything, one feeds this and thinks that this is the world, superb life I am living. What? Mamsa Pinda is being fed constantly. And this false identification is being fed constantly that I am Mr. So and so. That Jiva Bhav, how will it go? It will only increase. And with the increase of ego and Jiva Bhav, misery will only increase. So for now, we will stop and continue tomorrow. Any questions in what we did today?
Namaste, Swamiji. I wanted to know if Atma experiences only Aham. Can it experience anything besides Aham unless it projects Anatma?
See, so this question is from which standpoint is important to know. That Atma doesn't project anything. Atma experiences itself alone, that it alone is at all times. There is nothing else in Atma because there is no duality. So from Atma standpoint, this question itself is not relevant because there is no duality at all. There is no projection at all. Like the rope doesn't project the snake at all. But the question is always from our standpoint. Because I am seeing the duality, then we say that yes, it is this ego which is projecting this world. Atma is the enlivener of the ego. So Atma remains changeless. Ego goes on changing, and as per the ego, the world is also projected. So the waker projects the world in a certain way. The dreamer projects the world in a certain way. The deep sleeper, none of this will be there. That is the state of the projection of the what we call the subtle body. So the whole projection is because Atma is enlivening the subtle body and I am thinking I am this. So the question of projection comes from my standpoint, not from the Atma standpoint. So at the level of Atma, there is only Aham. There is nothing else at all. But when that Atma has This whole theory, what we say that, you know, the Atma forgets itself, then identifies with the body and then projects the world, is from our standpoint. Is not from Atma's standpoint.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, verse 294, the last line, it says Sad Asad Vilakshana. So Sad Asad means
Gross
is
and not the existence and non-existence. Sad
okay.
means gross, Asad
Okay.
there means subtle.
Okay, thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.